Thank you very much for joining us for our partner showcase this evening, and thank you for being patient as we get everything started. This is Navigate with Cameras and Confidence with new StellarTrek. Again, thank you for joining us and finding us this evening. We're going to hear a lot about this relatively new device. You may not know much about it. It's going to be an interesting evening for all of us. We have 60 minutes. So we will get started here in just a moment. Let's ask our regular poll questions that we like to ask at the start of all of our webinars. We'd like to know where you're from. We'd like to know what your job title is, and of course, how you heard about the webinar tonight. And then we have one additional question, content specific, going to help our presenters as they get started. We want to know, how familiar are you with the Trek product line? It's a multiple choice question. Your choices are: I own a VR Trek, Trekker Breeze, or a previous product. I own a StellarTrek. No, I've never owned a Trek device but use other GPS tools, or I've never used any GPS tools. So again, how familiar are you with the Trek product line? I own a VR Trek, Trekker Breeze, or previous product. I own a StellarTrek. I never owned a Trek device but use other GPS tools, or I've never used any GPS tools. We have a question about the closed captions. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's talk about our ground rules and housekeeping. Please put your questions in the chat. We do have 60 minutes tonight. We may take all of that time, we may not, but please feel free to ask your questions as we go along, and we will get to them at different points in the evening. There is no ACV REP credit tonight since this is a partner showcase. And unfortunately, we must apologize. We are having issues with the closed captioning. So that is not going to be happening at this point. We've been trying to get that fixed, and that is not functional at this point in time. So we are unable to provide that live. We do apologize for the inconvenience on that.
Hey, Paul, check that for a second. We do not have a captioner. However, I do believe that we were going to enable a function within Zoom to enable folks who are looking for captioning to have Zoom try to automatically caption it for us. So
okay, if that works, that's great. So we don't have a live captioner, but the Zoom captioning hopefully is working.
So hold on one second, because there is one person that's asking about that in the chat. So Betsy Ann, again, just to clarify for the individual that dropped that note, they would be going into captioning and do show captioning, or is there something that we can do on our end to get that going?
I am trying to get it to be available for everyone. I am not having any luck getting captioning to appear. It looks like it started for a bit and then stopped.
Okay.
So I'm at a loss.
Okay, so in the more button on the Zoom control button, there is a start captioning option. Peter, you have anything to add into this in your experiences with this?
No, I mean, when you enable, from the webinar creation side, it should allow you to turn it on. And like if we used live captioning, that was something that usually was done, from the creation point. So I don't know where the error, where that arose from, where it wouldn't let you do it.
So it's plausible. And again, apologize everybody who's out there as we sort of get through this. So Betsy Ann, it is possible then that on the back end, from an administrative standpoint, maybe the reason why, because I just did that and it did exactly what it did for you. I saw it for 1 second and then it went away.
Yeah, it's
so
possible that upon creation, it didn't allow you, there's a box, there's an enable captioning piece when you set up the webinar. And I'm guessing maybe it just, accidentally got left off, and so there's no way to then turn it on. The way you may be able to possibly fix it on the fly is to log into the admin account on the web and change it, but I don't know if that would take effect in real time.
I will
I do see
try
some
that option.
Yeah, I do see some subtitles right now. If I clicked on the live transcript option and clicked on show subtitles, and I do have some live subtitles. Obviously, it's as good as the automated system will allow,
AI,
but
yeah.
And was that from More, Matthew? Is that where you found that?
I have a live transcript button on my bar at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, you do? Okay. Man, again, everyone, we apologize as we were getting through that. I guess as Matthew has pointed out, if you have a live button on your Zoom toolbar, go ahead and press that. In the meantime, Betsy Ann and I will work in the background on that to see if we can drop any additional information in the chat. We appreciate your patience. And with that, Paul, you want to go ahead and continue along?
Yeah, I'm going to just restart the title real quick so we can edit that out. Welcome to our partner showcase. This is Navigate with Cameras and Confidence with the new StellarTrek. Let's go ahead and introduce our presenters. Both of them are from HumanWare. First, we have Mathieu Paquette, who's the product manager for Victor Reader and GPS products. And then we have Peter Tucic, Director of Strategic Partnerships for HumanWare. And before we get started, we want to let you know that the handout, the slides for this evening are in our page where we keep those documents. Betsy Ann has put that link in the chat for you. If you go there now, or if you want to wait till after the webinar is over, you can get the PowerPoint slides that they will be using here tonight to go over the StellarTrek. So going to get a lot of information about this product. It's still relatively new. A lot of folks may not know about it. We'll let Betsy Ann go over the poll questions here in a moment before we turn it over to our presenters.
Right. Thank you, Paul. And thanks everybody for taking our poll questions today. It's really helpful to know who's in the room as we get started. So we've got a few left who are still looking to take those polls. So I'll share the results as they are right now. For the question, what's your job title? 19% said TBI, 65% said O&M instructor, 16% said AT specialist. We have a few rehab professionals and several who marked other. Where are you from? Great representation across the United States with a few international folks joining us today. So welcome everyone. How'd you hear about the webinar? The emails are still looking good for most of you and working well. Some heard from the website or ACV REP. And now onto our content specific question today. How familiar are you with the Trek product line? 32% chose I own a VR Trek, a Trekker Breeze, or a previous product. No one selected that they currently own a StellarTrek, so a lot of you will be learning about this product here for the first time. 55% selected they've never owned a Trek device, but have used other GPS tools. And then finally, 13% have never tried or used any GPS tools. So thanks so much for taking that poll today. I'm going to go ahead and close it out, and we're going to hand it over to Matthew to get us started.
All right, thank you, everyone. So yeah, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Matthew. As was mentioned before, I am the product manager at HumanWare. I take care of all of our digital assistants. So that encompasses the Victor Reader product lines, the Stream, the Trek, the Stratus, as well as the orientation and mobility products, which is in this instance is the StellarTrek, which is our newly launched product. We've launched it in August of 2022, so just a little bit under 6 months. And yeah, we're super excited about this new product that we've launched. It is a huge labor of love from the folks here at HumanWare. It has been under development for several years. We were actually having a meeting earlier today, and we were saying we're about 4 years into developing this product, so it has been a long time coming. But yeah, we are super excited to share all the features of this product, and to show you how it can help not only with orientation and mobility, but also in your everyday lives. So if we can go to the next slide. So basically today, what we're going to go through, it's going to be me and Peter. We're going to go through what the webinar objectives are, what the features are, what's in the box. So for people who would be interested in buying the product, we'll do a quick physical description of the product so that you get an idea of what it looks like and what's the feel. We'll go through address recognition OCR, which are the two main focus of this webinars, because it is about the cameras, and those are things that the cameras allow us to do. I'll go a little bit through the support, so how we help support you in learning this new product, and then the future of the StellarTrek, and that'll be peppered with some demos that Peter will do with us. He's got a couple of things he wants to showcase there. Let's move on to the next slide. So basically today we want to show you two unique ways of using the cameras on the StellarTrek. So you know, we've been in the GPS business for a long time. I've been at HumanWare for 2 years, but I know that HumanWare has had, you know, the Trekker Breeze and lots of product in the past that helped with orientation and mobility. And when this project was started about 4 or 5 years ago, as I mentioned before, the main focus, the main question we were asking is, what do we bring as a new feature to the table to differentiate ourselves? And that was, we started using artificial intelligence, AI. So it's a buzzword you hear, you know, especially these days with ChatGPT and all those things. So we decided to use AI to do some really, really cool stuff that we'll demonstrate a little bit further down in this webinar. So the value proposition, basically the StellarTrek, what we wanted to do with it is help blind and visually impaired people regain some autonomy by supplementing traditional navigational tools. The StellarTrek is mixing old school O&M technologies with newer AI technologies. And one of the things that I like to say in here, the key word of that sense is supplementing. This is not meant to replace a white cane or a guide dog. This is meant to enhance those tools. So you'll still be using all of the O&M skills that you've learned and all of that, but we wanted to help, you know, bring them a bit further. So some of the features we have on the product, I put the compass feature as first. It is a relatively new feature that we've introduced about a month and a half ago. So basically, we now have a compass that will tell you which way you're facing, both as a standalone feature, so you could just use it as a compass as you would on your phone, for example, but also when you start navigating, when you get that first instruction that tells you, you know, head 200 feet north, well, that's all fine and dandy, but which way am I facing right now? So now it'll tell you head 200 feet north, you're currently facing east. So this way you need, you know that you need to rotate 90 degrees to the left and start walking. Landmark sorting, so we can sort by distance, by city and all of that. So that's a really cool feature. The landmarks are custom points of interest that you can set on your device. Like for example, if you know you want to, there's a new store that's not yet on the maps, you could set that as a landmark. If you've got a favorite park bench at the park that you would like to set as a landmark, and then get guiding to that landmark. So that's all kinds of fun stuff you can do. Navigate to your desired location by using either the virtual keyboard, physical keyboard, or voice dictation. So basically, we have 3 ways of entering text, either through a virtual keyboard, which is a QWERTY keyboard, or an ABC keyboard. It's your choice. You can use a physical keyboard, either through Bluetooth or a USB-C keyboard, or voice dictation. The voice dictation currently is not natural language. So it's not like with Siri where you can say, bring me to McDonald's, but you can use voice to enter an address, for example, instead of having to type it out. Get a more accurate final 40 feet navigation with address recognition. This is one of the main focus of today's presentation. So we use the cameras to recognize where the door is, but also what the address on the door is. You might, you know, be navigating to go to 123 Main Street, and then the map is as precise as can be, but when you reach your destination, you might be in front of 125. So now you can take a picture of the door, and then Peter will have a quick demo, but you can take a picture of the door and it'll tell you you're at 123 or 125, or, and then you know if you need to go a little bit further or behind. read labels, signs, mail with the integrated OCR camera system using quick or detailed reading. That's also something that Peter will be showcasing. OCR, for those who don't know, stands for optical character recognition. So basically it is translating text into speech. Save favorite destination or obstacles on common routes by using landmarks. Talked about it a little bit before. Find out what's around you with the Where Am I feature. So you can press the Where Am I button. It's going to tell you if there's any points of interest around you. It'll give you also intersection description and all of that. Explore your environment in virtual map browsing to prepare for upcoming trips. So for example, if you're going to, you're going to Seaside in California soon, you could set your position being at the hotel where you're going to be staying at and explore the surrounding streets and all of that. So that's very, very interesting. And then an open area mode for non-typical environments, such as off-road trails, parking lots, and all of that. So I'm not going to go too much into details about the O&M part of things here, because again, the focus of this is about the cameras, but there are a lot of really cool O&M features that were designed specifically for blind and visually impaired people, such as intersection description, for example. So it gives much more detailed instructions that you would get on a typical GPS application. Let's move on to the next slide. So what's in the box? Basically, it's a very box content is fairly simple. You'll get the StellarTrek device. You'll get a belt clip and a wrist lanyard, so to help carry it around. A USB-C cable and adapter, obviously to charge it, and a quick getting started guide. Now is the time where I pass the puck to my friend Peter for the physical description of the StellarTrek.
Thank you so much, Matt. And I am all about having the puck passed to me. I like saucer passes because they're in the air and they land right in front of your stick, and you one time it right into the net. And that's what I'm going to do. So we'll keep the hockey references alive and well, everyone, as we get into the 7 o'clock hour Eastern time. I'm going to hopefully switch my camera over to the unit. Can you see this? And if you could pin it, that'd be awesome.
I can pin you. It is a little blurry right now.
Blurry. All right. Well, we're just going to maybe, and we don't have to do it this way. I was going to share my entire piece, but if it's not looking great, then I'll abandon ship quickly. Is it any better or no? Is it just not lit right?
It is still pretty blurry.
Okay. What I'm going to do is not switch my camera, because we'll just move forward. And if we need to see it, we have made a lot of videos, and Matthew will talk about support. So we'll keep it where it is. But I do want to talk about
Peter, could it possibly be that you have a blurred out background? If
very well could be.
Isn't blurred out, would that make a difference?
I bet it would. I can try very quickly, because I do know that can play with it. What I'll do though, and again, the as my good friend Jim Sullivan says, this description and the reason for the camera is really for the light dependent folks with us. I am totally blind, and so I'll be sure to describe this in vivid detail, as vivid as I can be. That will kind of bring it into focus. Let me just quickly disable my virtual background, and that way we can do this. Let's go with none. And let's do this. Okay. Let's see if this fixes it. If I come back to my webcam here. All right.
It is a little bit better, yeah.
Any better? If it's a little better, that's all that matters, right?
If you come back a little bit with your camera, we'll get a really good view of it.
Heck yeah. Let's go.
There we go.
This. How about that? Any better?
Looks good. And if you just pull the device a little bit towards you, it'll be perfect.
Cool.
There you go.
Game on, everybody.
That was a great thing that you did with that pass, by the way.
It's a saucer pass. It was like Temu Solani is ready, and whoever was on the Jets in '96 is just sending it right over to him. So what we're going to do, I'm going to talk about the physical description. And when we build our products, we tend to build everything with a very tactile, interface in mind. We know that our users are going to be needing to use this device not only in the cold or in a lot of variable types of weather environments, but also we know that our users are going to be using this device with one hand. I'm always asked, why do we use, I can do all these things on my iPhone. I can get directions. And that's absolutely true. but a lot of times it's very difficult to use your phone in one-handed mode, sort of with that one-handed use case, even if it's, in your pocket or on a lanyard or something like that. I certainly struggle with it, and I live in the middle of a big city, and I'm always out and about. But when we build products, we do try to keep that tactile, simple interface in mind. You're currently looking at the top face of the unit, which is where your main controls would be. The top almost half of the unit is entirely blank. It's a nice smooth surface. The unit is about the size of an old, kind of like an iPhone 6, if you will, in terms of its front to back sort of a depth. It's a slightly thicker than that, but you will have a couple of buttons on this top face that are going to be relevant. This top left button, which is marked with a tactile line, is your back button, and that will always bring you back to your explore mode if you're walking around. The top right button is go to. So we think of go to address, go to landmark. Your go to key is going to be used when we're looking at selecting a route, entering an address, or getting to a specific location. You have a 5-way arrow up, down, left, right, and confirm buttons here in the middle. And on the bottom, you have 2 keys. The largest is the where am I key, which is certainly the most important. That's on the bottom left below your down arrow. Your bottom left button is where am I. You're going to use that when you are needing to know where you are. And again, a lot of times when you use an app, which I use something like Blind Square often or others, when I shake my phone, it tells me the address I'm at, but it kind of stops there. Here, your verbosity is going to be far greater. You can get your direction of travel. You can get the address, that you are currently near. You'll also get the next intersection, and you'll get what type of intersection that is, which is very important to that blind or visually impaired traveler. I love to know if I'm coming up to a 4-way or a 3-way. Maybe a street is changing names. Those things are very important to me while I'm moving throughout my environment. So that where am I key is extremely important. If you're en route, it will also give your next direction. The bottom right key is the voice key, and I've done some snapshot tutorials on this in terms of knowing where, how to use this. And Mathieu had touched on the fact that we're now able to dictate into the machine. So instead of saying, or instead of typing in Chicago, I can speak Chicago and have it query for that result. When I'm looking to enter an address number, instead of entering on the virtual keyboard or using a Bluetooth keyboard 12674, I can simply speak 12674 and so on. So we're starting down, and we had mentioned that it's not necessarily natural language dictation, but it is going to allow you to input in text fields when you're needing to input information, to not have to use those sort of virtual keyboards. So that bottom right button is the voice button. I'm going to rotate the device, and we'll look at the left edge here. I think my camera might have just
Peter, we lost your video.
Yeah, I definitely don't know what's going on. I'm not getting shut down, though, I'll tell you that. If there's one thing that isn't happening here, let's see if I can get it back. I heard it go out, and I'm thinking it's the let's try one more time. Okay, we might be back. Let's do this. We're going to look at the left edge, and it's a very clean edge, so let's see if I can get that back. Maybe not.
We still don't have video.
Can you say the magic words, Betsy Ann?
Hocus pocus.
Nice.
Please.
Please.
Abracadabra.
Worst comes to worst, I can put it on my camera.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to get it. I don't know. I'm using an older document cam, and it seems either to have quit on me or something. So Mathieu, if you can, or if you can just, we can come back to a screenshot of the device. The left edge is very clean and clear. There's only 2 buttons on it, and that is volume up and volume down. So again, your left face of the device is simply volume up and volume down. If you push those buttons together, you will alter the speed or your text-to-speech voice. So again, maybe you're receiving directions, and it'll say something like next intersection, 4-way intersection, street A crossing street B. If you want to speed that up and have it say intersection, next intersection, street A crossing street B, you can do that by touching both volume up and volume down keys together. You will toggle to speed, and you can then increase your speed. Whereas if I press them again, volume, I'm now working with the volume. So you are able to use those, again, those keys located on the left side of the device. On the right face, so the right edge of the device, you have 2 buttons. Furthest away from you, you will have a power or lock button, you are able to put this device to sleep. And that is a departure from previous models of our GPS products. They were just always on or always off. With this product, you are able to put the device to sleep by tapping the power button and simply locking the screen, much like you would on an iPhone or an iOS device, or any sort of smartphone or tablet for that matter. You can also certainly fully power the unit down by holding that volume key and choosing to power off the unit entirely. But it will allow you to put the device to sleep when it's not being in use. Maybe you're just going into a quick appointment, you're going into the store. You don't want to fully shut off and then have to come back and reacquire positions, because it can take you, a good 30 seconds or so to turn from a full shutdown to turn on the device and get signal. Whereas here, let's turn my volume up so you can hear this.
Volume 9.
If I just tap that button on the side,
Sleep on.
it simply locks my screen and says sleep on. Again, that's the button furthest away from you on the right edge. If I tap it again,
Explore.
it says explore.
Searching for
And
satellites.
immediately it's going to search for and find satellites. I am located in my basement, so it certainly won't be finding any satellites, although it has worked, oddly enough, which is very interesting. There's one other button on the right edge, which is your landmark or record landmark button. And this is used, a landmark, think of it as a digital bookmark, right? It's a breadcrumb. It's you're dropping a point as a sighted person would drop a pin on a map, but you're doing that with an audio tag. We can now rename those with text as well. So it could be a recording of you saying my house, which is often my first landmark, is usually when I stand in front of my house and drop a landmark there. So as soon as I walk, it will be picked up as my house. But you use these in creative ways, and they do not have to be destinations. So a landmark does not have to be a point that you're guided to per se. A landmark could be the entrance to a parking lot that you pass all the time. It could be the location of your, maybe of a water fountain in the middle of a big, huge park, or maybe you're on a trail and you want to lock something in. So landmarks are very useful. If you press and hold, you will have a route recording, which would be how you're able to kind of bring your recorded steps, not turn by turn directions, but the route you take, and pull that back up later for future use. So again, from a physical standpoint, your left and right edges, there's only two buttons on each side. The left side is volume up, volume down. If you tap those together, you control your speed. The right side of the device, you have your power. If you press and hold, you could shut the device fully off. If you just tap, you can put it to sleep or wake it up. And then you have a record button, which is going to be for your route recording. The last piece of this, the bottom face, the part that faces you when this device is on a table, you will have a USB-C charging port. You certainly could use that also to connect a USB-C keyboard if you have an external keyboard. And you also have an 1/8-inch audio jack, which is how I am connected here to my mixer. So for that brief period that I was on camera, you would have seen that my device had a cable coming out of it, and that's how you're hearing the sound of what it is that I'm doing. So I am connected. And again, that is on the bottom right. When it comes to it, we're going to move forward to the next slide. So again, that physical description. But as we come forward, there's one other piece that we're going to be talking about. That is address recognition. And in that physical description, the one piece I left out, because I saved it for last, is the back of the device, or the bottom face, the face that was resting on the table. The part that's closest to you on the bottom is ridged, and it is meant to be a grip. It is where your hand goes when you hold the device up in front of you or out in front of you, because above that ridge, there are two cameras. They are located at the top of the device on the back side, or back facing cameras. There are two of them. Those cameras are used for optical character recognition and for address recognition. There are two of them because one camera is a wide angle lens that is meant to capture your environment. It's meant to capture where that door may be. I'll do a quick demonstration. I have a pre-recorded one that I'll play. There's also a more narrow focused camera used for identifying text in your environment. So we'll talk about how those are used. But again, those are located on the back face. When we look at the address recognition side of things, we're using it to, as Matt said, kind of give us that last 30 feet. And for any of us who've ever gone anywhere by ourselves, and maybe, we get to where we need to go as blind travelers, and we don't necessarily know if we've arrived until one of two things happens. A, we're cued in by a landmark. Maybe there is a certain, a smell of the business we're going to. Maybe it's a restaurant. Maybe, we know it because we've been there before, right? We get that confirmation that way. Or B, somebody is there. Either A, we ask someone on the street for assistance, very common practice, extremely important when we travel by ourselves. Or B, we open the door if it is a business and ask, am I in the right place? And I certainly have lots of stories about not being in the right place and needing to correct. I'm sure we all have lots of those, and it can become kind of comical unless you're in a hurry when you end up at the wrong spot. However, there's not always somebody around, and you cannot and should not just open random doors when you're in a residential area and try to figure out if you're in the right place. Certainly can knock on a door and hope somebody's there if you need to and confirm an address. But what we're trying to get to here with this artificial intelligence is when we believe we have reached our destination, we want to use the cameras to give us a good shot at either A, identifying an address, or B, identifying text or something in the environment that can tell us that we're at the correct business. Address recognition is using that AI to tell us two things. Number one, if a door is present. And number two, if there is an address on that door. And this is very, very dependent on a location of the number. We don't always know where it is. I live in a house. I grew up in a house, actually, where my parents raised me. The address is somewhere completely random. Sometimes it's on the mailbox. Sometimes it's above the door, to the right of the door, to the left of the door. Sometimes it's in bricks on a fence. It could be anywhere. So we do need to build databases of as many doors, as many scenarios as we can. And you are able to opt in to share your address recognition photos with us so that we can build our database. You certainly do not have to. If you don't want to share your address recognition photos with us, you don't have to. If you do want to do that, we are then able to continue to build our database, because our developers and testers, no matter how many pictures we take, we are not everywhere. AI, or artificial intelligence, is built upon databases being accurate and those databases learning as they grow. So if you're able to help us, if you have a StellarTrek and you're able to share those simply address recognition photos with us, it'd be fantastic. The more data we have, the more precise we will be. I want to share my screen briefly, if I can, and play an address recognition video. I did record one being outside. So I'm going to quickly share my sound and my screen. You will hear my screen reader briefly, and you'll see my desktop, and I'll quickly play this video, and we will be golden. But let me just make sure I can share my sound, and we'll do that. All right, now you will hear my JAWS. Just me. I'm going to come to my desk, and I'm going to play this clip right here. Here we go. Hey everybody, through the magic of editing, I am outside, and I'm going to demonstrate quickly how we can capture an address or a door when we reach.
Hey Peter, we're seeing your audio, but not the video.
There's no video of
20
that.
or 30
Okay,
feet to make
sorry.
sure we are where we are. I'm
not that smart.
Going to press and hold my up arrow on the unit, and it is going to bring me into our various detection modes. So let me do that here.
Detection modes. Address confirmation.
And we hear that the first one is address confirmation. I've demonstrated and will be demonstrating the quick reading and the full page scanning functions here as well. But this will be what we want to do. So I'm going to press confirm on address confirmation.
Camera ready.
And we get a note that my camera is ready. And what happens is it's going to guide me into taking and framing the photo. We hear that I receive a series here of very quick beeps. This tells me that my photo is perfectly framed, and I'm going to press confirm to actually take this picture. Now I'm going to be remaining in position.
Stop moving. Taking picture. Please wait. 1 door, 2 house numbers. Door with number 826 found within 6 to 14 feet at 12 o'clock.
Okay, so I'm standing right in front of my house, and so I do get the 826, which is my address. Now, I also have, so that's showing on my mailbox. To the right of my mailbox, I have a placard that also has my address. So if I press my right arrow, it will pick up that one as well.
House number 826.
There's my actual house number. If I press my right arrow again,
door with number 826 found within 6
that's
to 14
where
feet at 12 o'clock.
It's actually seeing the door and the house number. So again, we can get a sense of
whether a door is present, how far away that door is, and then also the clock face. So it's at 12 o'clock. If I was facing, if the door was off to my right, for instance, and maybe I was a bit off center, might say it's at 11 o'clock, or I'm sorry, if it was off to my left, it'd be at 11 o'clock. If it was off to my right, it would be at 1 o'clock. But you will get clock face directions of that door that is present. So additionally, if any address numbers are found, they can be used. And as I demonstrate later, the quick reading feature is very useful if I need to, maybe I don't get an address at a business, but I want to grab additional text that might be in my environment. So I hope this is helpful. And thanks to the magic of video editing, it's like I just did this live.
All right. So one of the pieces, I'm going to stop my screen share here. One of the pieces, and at some point we will have some sort of videos of this, but I don't have that kind of marketing power as a single-handed. I need a GoPro or something to do it right. But we do plan on certainly having videos of folks out and about actually demonstrating these things for those who are light dependent. What I was able to do, and this is what's important, if you're unable, and as we move forward in the slide deck, if you're unable to capture an address, so let's say you go and you get a door. Okay, I know I'm at a door, but I don't know what address, or I don't know what business I'm near. Sometimes what you will find very useful is quick reading, and quick reading allows you to take a photo of a, every second or two and gather and grab text from your environment. Quick reading is something that I use a lot when I'm out and about. Sometimes I do know there's a sign on a pole and I just start guessing where that text is. We use it for those who use Seeing AI. This is the same sort of concept. You aim your camera at something. If any text is present or detected, it's going to read it to you. I used this a few months ago. I was somewhere and I was in a big, huge empty room and I didn't know where the exit was. And I used quick reading to find the exit. And not because I found the word exit, but because when I started taking photos of the room, I was read the fire alarm instructions. And generally a fire alarm or a fire extinguisher is going to be located near an exit. So I was able to move in that direction and certainly get out of that room. A lot of times quick reading can save the day. Not only can it possibly find an address where the camera may not with address recognition, but it might read the business hours. It might read the name of the business you're in front of. It's going to be pulling text, and I'll kind of give you a brief demonstration of how this works. Again, I'm sitting here. I'm going to just point it around the room, and I will aim it at my computer screen because I often use it to determine if my computer is on and kind of what's going on here. So I am going to press and hold my up arrow to get into detection modes.
Detection modes. Address confirmation.
And again, here's address confirmation, which we just saw. I'm going to press my right arrow.
Quick reading.
And here's quick reading. And what you'll notice is when I press confirm, you will hear the camera immediately take a photo. And then if any text is present, it will read it. If there is no text present, it will continue to try and take pictures as I move my camera around. So let's hear how fast that goes.
Camera ready.
It's going to take that first photo.
One.
It's going to, if it sees text, it will find it. If it doesn't, it simply takes another picture. Nothing is found. It's going to take another picture. Nothing is found. Let's say I aim this at my computer. It's going to immediately look. Let's get it actually in front of the computer and actually read what is in front of me.
UKW as Zoom menu.
So it's seeing my Zoom menu. If I aim it at some hand sanitizer here, hopefully we'll read this. Let's see what it finds. And we'll be able to pull Ricola. Oh, I have cough drops here. That's good. Again, what this does, let me get out of it. What this does is it brings me in and captures text in my environment. Can be extremely useful for household objects, can be very useful. I actually do have lots of cough drops sitting here now that I realize that. It will be able to pull text in general from anywhere you are. The final mode, if we come forward a slide, is detailed reading. Detailed reading, again, is going to be very relevant when we look at pieces of mail, when we, when we're kind of thinking of what the kind of full page documents may hold, menus, lots of that stuff. We want to capture an entire page. I have here a box of Cheerios. Now, I love Cheerios. They're my favorite. I've done this before with Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are good, Cheerios are better. So one of the things we've worked on with this is the ability to optimize how we work through OCR content. We want to be able to move through content in different ways. We want to be able to tell you not just what's on a page from top left to bottom right, but how we can categorize that. And so I'm going to take a picture. I think this will be the right side of the box. I want to take a picture of the ingredients. What I've learned since having this product is that you can aim a OCR camera at the front of a box and read what a product is. But if you want the nutritional information or the serving size, which is relevant to some, you need to take a picture of the side of the box. So I'm going to move over here to detailed reading.
Detailed reading.
Again, you have 3 modes. You have address recognition, quick reading, and detailed reading. Going to press confirm on detailed reading, and I will be guided into taking a photo of this picture. And again, it will give me sort of an orientation or a guiding to frame my photo properly. I'm going to press confirm.
Camera ready.
I'm going to aim this at my box.
Move further.
It's going to guide me into taking this picture. And when it
Move
sees
further.
text, if
Move
there is
further.
text present, it's a little
up.
challenging to do here. It's going to then say, okay, stop moving. And you can now take
further.
your picture.
Stop moving. Taking picture.
What happens is that picture is taken. I think this will be the right side of the box, although I didn't.
Nutrition facts of
there we
box 13 per container. JD
Now,
yours about 25
what you're hearing-
servings per content. GC1.
I'm going to stop it. What you're hearing is right away, we have the nutrition facts. Now, in that same vein, so again, you can read this just in these big, long text strings. 25 servings per this and that and the other. And then it starts to read the ingredients and you hear a bunch of random things. Then it says OCL and OCR and DCT, C162 and hydrochloric acid and all these different ingredients. Oftentimes that doesn't do us too much good. What we've done is I can use my arrow keys to drill down. And if I got a good photo of that box, I can move through the sections of text. So what I can do, let's see, here we go. I'm going to press my right arrow.
Browse ingredients.
Here's browse ingredients. Or if I press my right arrow again,
browse text blocks.
here's text if there were text blocks.
Browse nutrition facts.
And then browse nutrition facts. So it's able to
Press confirm to
determine,
browse text using this category.
if I press confirm, I could then browse the various nutrition facts. If I press confirm here,
Calories 140.
we see that I have 140 calories per serving.
Calories
If
140.
I come down, let's go.
Calories.
hold on.
Calories
I messed it
100.
up. I went up. If I need to, though, I can browse through these various elements in these lists. This, again, we're thinking about how we can use AI to optimize or to better work with OCR. OCR is phenomenal. It's been around a long time, but OCR can become a bit smarter in helping you not just read a document from the top left to the bottom right of a page. Okay, I've babbled enough, done some demos, very quick, but I want to toss that back over to Matt with the time we have left to talk a little bit about what's coming and kind of the support pieces that we have in place.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much, Peter. So yeah, so as you saw, the cameras that we have on the device are not only just cameras, but they're powered by artificial intelligence. So it allows us to do a lot of things, and we are looking into integrating more and more as time goes on. A really good example of this that we talked just before the holidays was opening hours on a door, for example. So very often the way that it's listed, the OCR will kind of jumble it all up. But if we could have a detection, a mode where it sees, just like it saw nutritional facts and ingredient lists as being two separate things, if we could have opening hours, for example, or store operating hours or something like that, and then it would read those information. So it doesn't do it currently, but it is stuff that we are looking to evolve into. So if we could go to the next slide, I'll briefly touch on support. I'm going to go rather quickly because honestly, I would love to get some questions from the audience. But in terms of the support resources, for those who don't know, we have a smartphone app that's available on Android and iOS. That's called the HW Buddy app, which has guides and a lot of information on all of our products, not only the StellarTrek, but if you're a Brownlow Touch user or a Connect 12, a user of any of our products, a Stream user, we have all of that there. We've also got our support website where there's a lot of documentation, including user guides, troubleshooting, FAQs, and videos. And videos is the third part. Peter last summer recorded a bunch of, we have 10 snapshot tutorial videos that are about 5 to 8 minutes in length. One of them is a bit longer because it's the startup wizard. It's how to set up your device. That's a 24-minute video, but everything else is about, piece size. It's 5 to 10 minutes. how to run key describer mode, how to set up your Wi-Fi, how to manage your voices, how to pair a Bluetooth headset and stuff like that. And last but not least, one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that I was HumanWare for 2 years, but the first year and a half I was here, I was with our technical support team doing support on Victor and low vision products. And we have a wonderful technical support team here at HumanWare. For those of you who had to call in, really the colleagues from my old team are really wonderful people who love to help. And they're a great resource if you have any questions, or even if you need a little bit of guidance, or you want to learn how to do something, they'll be there to help. And we always love to get calls from our customers. And then moving on to the next slide, the future of the StellarTrek. So I've mentioned that it is a device that will evolve over time. We are the AI and the cameras and the platform that we have allow us to envision a lot of cool things. And I've listed here a few things that we're currently exploring. So barcode reading is one of the things we're currently working on that we're hoping to have out probably in the spring. Being able, we're starting with food related barcodes, but it will be a great tool to be able to pick up your, a can of soup and know that it's a tomato soup or something like that. Color recognition is also something that we are working on that we know is very helpful to the blind community. And then stuff like scene recognition, for example, this is more far down the road, but recognizing objects in the scene. So where the garbage can is, where your keys are, where you don't know where your cane is, you can scan your environment and find your cane in your environment. If you're looking for your wallet, stuff like that. So this is stuff that we're looking into doing. Once again, this is a bit more further down the road. It is a lot of work, but it's stuff that we want to do. Currency recognition, so to be able to take a handful of bills and have it tell you what the bills are. And then indoor navigation, I think, is the holy grail. We already help a little bit with indoor navigation with the quick reading mode that Peter just demonstrated. So this is already helpful. I saw someone in the chat mention it'll help so much in the hotel corridors and whatnot, and that's absolutely true. So we do already have a little bit of that in that quick reading mode, but we want to get towards a point where we do true indoor navigation. And this is something that we are working more in the long term. But yeah, and then we're also making lots of small improvements. And when I say small, I say small, but they're actually pretty big. Just this morning, I had a meeting with our team and we were talking about, for example, in the orientation mobility section of the device, we're looking at adding traffic lights and stop signs to the maps, so that when we describe an intersection for a user, it doesn't only say it's a four-way intersection, but it'll also tell you it's a four-way intersection with one traffic light, with two traffic lights. We're trying to get a crosswalk detection system to help you locate where the crosswalk is and then more safely walk across the street. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. The crosswalk detection is a bit further down the line, where I'm not talking about getting it this spring, but the traffic light information, for example, and stop signs, as much as they're present in the maps, obviously we find that depending on the city, it's more hit or miss. Traffic lights are usually pretty good. Stop signs are a little less good, but I mean, as long as the information's there, we want to present it to the user and help inform your decisions in your navigation. And then again, as I said at the very beginning of the webinar, it is a supplement. So even if we're telling you, well, there's a crosswalk here, you're not just going to cross across the street without listening for incoming traffic, and you're still going to do all of that, but you'll know that at least you're at the right place to cross the street. So it's really stuff like that we want to bring. It is a lot of people tell me, oh, well, I've got Google Maps on my phone. Why would I need this? Well, it is all of those little things like open area navigation. If you're on Google Maps, it's not going to guide you very well like on a college campus where there's no streets. It's going to be much more difficult. Whereas we have route creation, we have open area navigation, we have intersection description. If you're walking down the street, your Google Maps is not going to tell you that you're coming across an intersection if you don't have to turn at that intersection, we will tell you you're coming up on, Baker Street, and then it's a 4-way intersection, and then there's a stop sign. This way, you know that you have to stop and you have to make sure there's no incoming traffic and whatnot. So yeah, we're really excited about this product. And then I see that there's a few questions in chat. I'm gonna let I think Betsy, you're gonna be reading them off.
Sure thing. So going back to the first one that came in, how much battery life does the device have, and does it charge fairly fast?
So the battery life on the device, and not to toot our own horn, but it is pretty fantastic. We're talking about a little bit over 20 hours of actual use. We have so as you may guess, we have quite a few blind users at HumanWare, and there are beta testers, and some of our testers are blind as well. And they've been using this device for over a year now as their daily driver for their GPS, and they tell me they charge it like once or twice a week. It is a very long lasting battery. You can get several days of use out of it. I mean, 20 hours of actual use. Worst case, if you're doing a lot of OCR and really intensive stuff, maybe it goes down to 18, but not much lower than that.
Next question, are there different voices you can pick from? And if so, how many?
I don't have the exact number of voices off the top of my head, but we do support 14 different languages, French, English, Spanish being the most common one, obviously in North America, but we do have like Dutch, German, and I think Italian. In terms of different voices, I don't know exactly how many, but there are quite a few.
Yeah, there's several English voices, and back to the previous question, the charging time is relatively quick. I mean, it depends on your, you can use a fast charging port with it. It will charge faster. It's really going to be about an hour or two, excuse me, an hour or two to get to full charge. I generally stick more toward that 2-hour side.
Yeah.
So in line with the options for different voices, can it translate? So for example, if you're an English speaking person traveling in France, will it translate from French to English?
Currently, no, that's not a feature that we have. It is, however, on our roadmap. So the software that we use for the OCR has the ability of doing some translation. The one thing, and this addresses one of the questions that I saw in chat, the one great feature about the StellarTrek is that it does not require a data plan. It works 100% offline, so you don't have to be connected. So obviously, when you want to download your maps, if there's an update to be had, obviously you'll need to be connected to Wi-Fi. But outside of that, for both the OCR and everything that's orientation and mobility, entering an address and all that, it all works offline. Now, the software we use for OCR does allow for some translation. It is not as powerful as cloud-based translations, obviously, as it has to be embedded into the device, but it is something that is on our roadmap and we're looking into. I'm not promising anything, but it is something we're looking into.
I think the other thing there to keep in mind is you do have multiple voices. So although it might not be translating, it won't necessarily be, if I know that document is in French, or if I need the names of a French street name or something like that, it's going to read it appropriately with the proper TTS if I have that installed, in addition to my system language. So you can have two voices, on the unit at one given time. So that would allow you to have an English and Spanish voice, or an English and French voice, or Spanish and Russian, or something like that. So that if you're traveling in another country, you will be able to read or have the street names read properly, or read text in that language properly.
Yeah.
So Peter, you, I think, answered this before. Does it work with a Braille display?
Not at this point in time, but that is something that certainly has been on our radar. We would very much want, and I am always very, very Braille centric, and the ability to read the spellings of street names, of towns, of your environment is something that is very important. So certainly, because we are able to tie into Bluetooth, is something we would love to be able to move forward. At this point in time, though, no, there is no Braille display support, but eventually it certainly is something we want to bring to the device.
Does it work in conjunction with What 3 Words app?
I don't even know what that is, but that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
What 3 words? Do you know what that is, Matt?
Yeah, I do actually. So what 3 word, for those who don't know, is a system where every square, I think it's square meter in the world,
Oh,
has
okay.
been assigned 3 words. Yeah, 3 random words. So like car, screen, pamphlet might be the position in front of my house, for example. Don't look it up, it's not. I just picked 3 random words, but yeah, so those we don't support that system yet. I've looked into it, and honestly, I do see a lot of pros and cons to using that system. I'm not saying we're not going to do it, but currently we don't really see the value in adding it to the product. But that being said, we're not close to the idea of perhaps eventually supporting it.
All right, we've got about 2 minutes left in the webinar, but I am sure that Peter and Matthew will stay on to answer these last few remaining questions.
For sure.
Absolutely.
We do want to go on to our last 2 slides. The first one is a poll question. This is just opting in to be contacted for more information about the HumanWare StellarTrek. So please go ahead and answer that yes or no. And then we've got our final slide here. This is the web address for learning more about the StellarTrek, and I'll also drop this in the chat for everyone so you can easily locate it. And we will go back, as you're answering this poll question, we'll go back to some of the questions. Let's see where we left off. There were some questions about different areas where it might work. For example, Arctic-like areas in Northern Ontario. Peter, you talked a little bit about the device's reliability and maybe colder weather regions, but anything else to share?
Yeah, so the device has an IP rating, and it's able to get wet. That doesn't mean you want to toss it into the pool. It can stay. It supposedly can be in up to a couple of feet of water, submerged, but I haven't tried. If somebody wants to try, you can certainly do that. I would not recommend it, but it's there.
It's
So,
weatherproof. So if you get a bit of rain
sure.
on it, yeah, you won't get any issues. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend submerging it.
But it does an IP rating. It will work. The maps we have. So if you have a map installed of Canada, I mean that Canadian map will go all the way up to St. James Bay, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Depending on the province you're in. So you will be able to use it in those certainly in those rural or very remote environments, as long as there's satellite reception, which is pretty much anywhere. You will be able to use the device, and I use it a lot. I was up in the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota this last summer, and I did take it with me, and I was able to drop landmarks at our campsites, so that as I like to wander around, which I didn't do a ton of, but you have to wander quite a bit to use the facilities, which are just not really facilities at all. But I was landmarking those pieces and was able to get back and forth. So I was using it in some pretty open, very, very much in some open areas that have no map presence on GPS whatsoever. But again, dropping your pins or dropping your landmarks serves a lot of relevance in those scenarios.
So Peter, you talked a little bit about how you can speed the voice up. Can you also reduce the verbosity so you don't hear town, province, zip code when you're looking at address? That's
a fantastic question. And so you can change your verbosity level. When you press where am I, you can change, maybe you don't, maybe the intersection type is not important to you, or you can mess with that verbosity depending on what you want to be spoken.
Can it work with a college campus GIS?
I'm assuming GIS is referring to, well, I'm not too sure, but I'm wondering if that's a geocaching piece. What you can do, so I'm going to answer the question, and feel free to dump more in the chat if I'm not answering this properly. What you are able to do, you can't create your own points of interest using an external program. So you can't simply create a landmark with like a DBX file or something like that and put it on the device. However, you can export landmarks. So let's say you have a device and it's on a college campus. You create a series of landmarks. You can save those landmarks to the device and put them onto a lot of other devices, or save them for future use. Your landmarks are also sorted now. And so you could sort landmarks by city, and you can import and export onto multiple devices. So I don't know if that answers the question. I think it may. I believe But in terms of landmarks are going to be created by the user of the product. They're not going to be imported from a sort of a web solution or a way to, there's no way to build landmarks externally.
All right, and the final question that just came in. So this is just looking at example of maybe a store window. If you take a picture of it, will it describe just the OCR just of the writing, or is it going to describe the things in the window, describe the picture, maybe an advertisement, and what the color of some things are?
So it will read the text in that environment. I think scene, for any of us who've used scene recognition, it's okay. I know it's something Matthew had mentioned. We certainly would like to work on it. We've also had, AI is AI, and when we take a picture of that store window, we are getting the text or any text that the camera encounters in that store window. It could be reading the name of the business, the hours of operation. It could be reading, maybe something that is maybe a brand of something that is in that window. Maybe there's an advertisement, may read that. But as far as description, scene description, or analyzing the picture of the window itself, that is not going to be a part of what this will do. If eventually at some point, I know that's where we want to go. I have found limited success with some of those scene generation, sort of scene AI types of apps. I'm sure they will get better as we go forward. Oftentimes it could be important to, if it's a conference room you're stepping into versus a bathroom, sometimes that can be important, but in general, that type of detail is not going to be very well portrayed by AI scene recognition, not at this point in time, but it certainly is something that could come, and scene descriptions are something we do want to put onto the device. Absolutely. In addition to many other types of AI. Go ahead.
Yeah, a good example of something that we want to do eventually is, for example, you get into the doctor's waiting room and there's a bunch of chairs. Some of them are occupied, some of them aren't. We'd love to be able to guide you to an unoccupied chair. I'm sighted myself, but I have several of my blind colleagues who told me that countless time they've actually sat on people by accident, and that can be embarrassing.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a thing.
so to be able to tell a user, there's 4 chairs seen. The one at 10 o'clock is free, so that you get better guidance to that chair. It's about 5 feet away, or whatever the case may be. It is something that we would love to eventually, and we have a team internally that's called the Emerging Technology Team that works exclusively on that. And they're working on getting something something done in next few months, a couple of years perhaps. It is very difficult to do, but it is something we're gearing towards too.
Or we have that situation where we don't sit down because the first chair we encounter is occupied, and getting past it would just be kind of senseless, right? We don't try, but the next 2 may be open, and we end up standing because maybe we don't ask, or the person isn't going to tell us that there's some open chairs, and we stand next to 2 open chairs. And that those sorts of pieces, alleviating some of that can be a big deal. So we're really gonna look into what we can do in harnessing the AI to do creative things. Just we have the cameras, and then figuring out how we can harness them with offline power, not having to connect to the cloud. Being able to do it on the device itself is also very important to us.